Hello and welcome to the next installment of the Energy Tech Network. I'm Alex Owen Hunt, a global investment reporter at a specialist unit of the Financial Times focused on cross-border investment. Joining me today is Mark Windeknecht from Vito ONE. Hello, Mark. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Alex. Happy to be here.
Thank you. And today, of course, we will be discussing all things energy tech. So just as a starter, I'd love if you could just give a brief introduction about how you got into venture capital and what your sort of career path was to your current position at Vito ONE.
Yes, so I'm probably not sharing the most likely path to venture capital because I started off with my passion for energy technology. I picked energy technologies as a major in my studies in university, and I wasn't my curiosity wasn't satisfied after my studies, so I started as a researcher in energy technologies, and I researched small scale stationary fuel cells, and I realized how mature these technologies already, and I would try to do simple calculations to see how these new solution can be monetized and can be monetized in our current energy economic or energy system. And there was my passion for applying cutting edge technology to solve problems, to solve our energy problem was born. And in my final year, I applied for an internship in a deep tech fund, and to learn more about solving problems and how to monetize technologies to earn money with these technologies. And and after this internship in my final year was for me was definite that I want to come back to tech VCs or work as a VC with technologies. And but I first did some experience in the energy world, and I worked as an innovation engineer for an heating system company in Germany. And then as I had the opportunity to join energy tech VC, I grabbed that opportunity, and now I'm here for 2 years nearly in energy technology venture capital.
Fantastic. So it's really your move into energy tech is driven by your research interests, and I suppose that's an interesting background to have to go into VC. I mean, a lot of the discussions I've had over the several sessions we've had in the Energy Tech Network have been with people with more financial backgrounds, perhaps. So it's interesting to hear your perspective in that sense. But of course, you're at Vito ONE now. I'm interested what the sort of focus is of Vito ONE. I mean, maybe you can just give us a brief introduction, what Vito ONE's about, and what sort of investments you make.
Yes, so Vito ONE is the first European venture capital fund focusing on prop tech, construction tech, and of course energy tech. We have been investing from Munich since 2015 into B2B and B2C startups with the potential to be, of course, the next big players in Europe. So we invest in European-wide, and we made 20 investments so far, and we also had some exits already. So we invest into early stage companies. Early stage means for us around seed, and we initially invest up to 500K.
Great. I'd just like to, before we move on to more into your strategy, I'd just like to remind all of the audience members, wherever you may be tuning in from, that you can pose questions to Mark that I will happily pass on, and we can lead the conversation. We want to keep you involved. So if you'd like to ask a question, please fill it in via the Brella platform. And of course, well, it's interesting, you've made 20 investments up to now. What sort of strategy do you have in terms of these investments? I mean, what are you looking for when you're picking the sort of companies and startups you want to invest in the energy tech space?
There we have like our 5 T's, like team tech, TAM, traction, tranches, so defensibility. Of course, first of all, we look at the team. I'm pretty sure everybody's doing that. And second, we go for the technology for the product. Is how big is the pain point? How big is the problem which is solved? And then is the addressable market big enough to really scale their big company? And of course, traction is their traction. And in the beginning, in the seed phase, you probably don't have so much revenue, but you have pilots, you have LOEs, you have other things which can prove your traction, the demand, the pull from the market.
Mm-hmm. And I think what sort of unique approach do you think you need to take to seed investing then? Because I've spoken to lots of VCs that are probably investing across several different stages. I mean, you've mentioned there are things that can show that you've gained traction, but do you think there's a unique strategy you need as a seed type VC investor?
Yeah, unique is that you most likely don't have, or you can't apply your revenue metrics you probably have in later stage. You're more, of course, you need other proof points. You need other points which prove traction. And like I said, it's more pilots. We need customers where we can make reference call to create our own image of how good the product is, how big is the pain point which is solved, and what are they willing to pay for it, and thereof creating a vision where this company can be in 10 years from now or 5 years from now. Yeah. And yes, and that's a specific approach. I would say it's more not only hypothesis driven, but it's harder to drill deeper there. It's not so easy from the first glance to decide which is the right company or which has the right metrics. And that's why we have a list of hypotheses about how the energy and the connected building world is developing.
For sure, and certainly we will touch on what your outlook is and the top 3 trends that may be affecting the market later in our discussion. But I want to dig in a little bit into your portfolio. What company specifically excites you the most at the moment, and why?
Okay, that's that's a tough one. It's hard to pick. It's really hard to pick a company out of our portfolio because we have so many incredible companies and founders and personalities there. But if I had to pick one, I would go for GridX. The other portfolio companies, please forgive me, because of my engineering, energy technology background in my thesis, close to the application of GridX. Please understand my choice. For those who don't know GridX, they're built a white label full stack IoT solution for the digital energy world. They basically can connect and monitor and optimize every energy consumer or producer. And with these, in my eyes, unique tech backbone, you can provide solution for smart charging, energy management of building or whole neighborhoods or quarters. And that's an essential pillar of our future energy system, in my opinion.
And whereabouts are they offering their services? I mean, is it just in Germany, pan-European?
So pan-European, but of course they started off here in Germany to provide their white label solution for B2B partners in Germany. But I'm not only curious about the or excited about the product, also about the both founder Andy and David and their passion for the energy transition and making the new energy world happening, and that's their motto. It's get shit done, and that's what they really do. And to give you a small example I like to share with is that as they needed money for the realization of their idea of their company, they took their last money and rented a huge laser to project stop nuclear power and use grid-X on a nuclear power plant furnace in Belgium. And that brought them so much media cover that they finally found somebody who financed the beginnings of their company. And that is like, you see these people, their hands on, they do it.
That's a great. I mean, I'd like to pick up on that. I mean, suppose is that some sort of recommendation you'd give to founders? Is it be bold, take that risk to really get media coverage? I mean, what lessons can founders learn from the success of grid-X in this particular case?
In this particular case, yeah, be bold and have and show your passion for the, in this case, of course, energy transition, and you want to make a change here.
Yeah, for sure. Are there any other companies you'd like to mention in your portfolio? I'm sure you have others in sort of different segments of the energy tech space, let's say. What other companies excite you also?
It's still in the energy space, but more probably on the sustainability side, and that's Choose. Choose is a company from Norway, and they're a climate action platform, and they're really, and since we all know we have to do something, and our personal possibilities to do something are sometimes limited, or limited to a certain level, and there you really can do make a change as a person, and of course you also can do that as a company, but they give you the opportunity to do something about our climate change, because that's the overarching topic we will have and face in the next years. COVID-19 will be over one day, but the climate change will stay, and we have to do something about it, and we have to enable everybody to do something about it, and that's this climate action. That's something Chooses just offering. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, and certainly we will discuss what you think of the current developments with COVID-19 and the major trends going forward. But bring it back to Vito ONE specifically. I mean, of course, there's lots of VCs that are pitching at investors or pitching at founders and looking at interesting startups. What really is the unique selling point of Vito ONE, and what can you bring entrepreneurs and their startups?
I would say, our USP is definitely our experience in in our specific focus areas. We invest there for 5 years now. We have a lot of experience about business models, technology working or not, and also we have the needed network, which we can provide in these spaces to our portfolio companies.
Sure. And beyond the capital, I suppose that you've talked about the experience, but I mean, do you have success stories in the past, or have you had any exits? Are there any sort of startups or former portfolio companies, current portfolio companies that really prove the success of Vito ONE and what it can offer different entrepreneurs?
So beyond capital, and that's picking up what I've said before, is what we can deliver is network. It's experience and network, and network to knowledge, to talent, to capital, of course, for the next following rounds, and of course for customers. And that's a major asset that we bring to the table, that we can help to find first customers. And to stick to the example of grid-X, we opened doors there for customers, which they now deliver their white label solutions.
Fantastic. Moving on to the market and the sort of trends you're seeing, I wonder, what do you think the 3 most important trends are going to be in the next 2 years in the energy tech and clean tech space, and why?
Already started off with the overarching drivers of the trends in the energy tech and clean tech world. So first of all, the most pressing problem is climate change. This will be not easier to solve with an increasing world population, and incredible drive to urbanization. So these three drivers will push our energy world or energy technologies into decarbonization of generation. So PV, wind will be still is a major topic and will be a major topic. Um, decentralization of generation, which is definitely connected to wind and solar because these are decentralized power generator, will be a huge topic. And then we already quite far with that, but which is still missing and is probably most interesting for the next 2 years is the decoupling of generation and consumption. We still need solutions for matching generation and consumption because they are not happening simultaneously. They're still somehow disconnected, and that's why we will see and we already saw and we will see several solutions popping up there. This is batteries, sector coupling, coupling mobility with mobility and heat and electricity, demand response, energy management. These all are fields we will see massive changes in the next two years. And sticking to batteries, we've seen such an uprise in the numbers sold batteries in the last year, and for especially in Germany. So we surpassed now 200K installed stationary PV battery storages, and 55K only sold in 2019, where we will see a big trend there, and this will really be a game changer of our future energy system, because we need it for the balancing of our generation and consumption. On the other hand, it's getting economically interesting for homeowners. And the next is that probably also of COVID-19, people are starting to like the feeling of using their own produced energy, to be self-reliant there and be independent from any central energy generation.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to pick up on a few of those. I suppose you talked about the increased battery sales in Germany up to 200K and 55K in 2019, as well as this mismatch between, I suppose, as you say, generation and consumption. I mean, maybe you can highlight a few companies that are really leading the way in terms of bridging that gap, or I mean, where do you see as the real opportunities for startups, entrepreneurs to make a big difference and probably have a lucrative returns as a result?
This is very broad field. It sounds very focused, but it isn't, because you have so many opportunities. Let's start off with batteries. You have the battery cell itself, which mostly are now produced in Asia, with all the problems we know about the materials you need. There are companies like Volt Storage from Munich, which trying to solve that problem, use other materials, use other types of batteries, but still provide the flexibility of a battery. Then you can go to the battery management system. There are still opportunities. There you have some companies working on that, and then also about the monitoring of batteries, of the lifetime of batteries, like Twice, also from Munich. So there are a lot of opportunities to improve batteries left, even though we are already improving batteries for years. And then when you when you're looking at energy systems, holistic energy systems, not only as a battery itself, because nowadays we just sell PV and a storage together. We need to think, we need to start thinking in holistic systems, and there are startups like EcoWorks from Berlin, which provide you not only with your PV and your battery, but also with a matching heating system, matching insulation of your building, matching windows, stuff like that, so that you have like a whole really holistic system where you can optimize your, first of all, energy consumption, and then bridge generation and consumption.
So within that, I suppose the holistic system, I mean, are you advocating for a startup to be a go-to place, a sort of one-stop shop to do everything for you? Or do you think within the holistic system, there's probably room for specialists and then a platform that sort of unifies it all? I don't know. I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, but.
Yeah, but that's definitely right. There are so many opportunities. That's like I said in the beginning, it's so broad. Nobody can do it completely himself, or herself. It is something that has to. We need an ecosystem, like we already have an ecosystem in the energy world. But we need a broader and newer and innovative ecosystem where all these pieces of a puzzle can come together. And of course, this holistic system, which I meant was just a building, but out of this holistic building, you can generate neighborhoods, so energy communities, basically. And then from that perspective, you can go to statewide, nationwide, European-wide level, because these systems have to be interconnected. And that's something, coming back to GridX, that's something what they can provide.
I suppose then, if it's key to have the ecosystem, that's when government policy and initiatives and funding comes in to play a massive role, really. I mean, what, as a general question, what sort of policies do you think stand out and are successful at developing these sort of ecosystems that's going to enable us to have a smoother transition or expedite the whole process?
I would love to see reforms on the energy market, which makes it easier for startups to participate, first of all, and second, to better showcase which are the real costs of the energy consumed currently, because now it's all covered by taxes and stuff like that. So doesn't make any sense to shift too much your energy consumption to high times to low times, because as a consumer, I don't see the difference, because it's all covered by taxes. And that's something where the legislator should change something, probably not only in Germany, but probably all over Europe, that we have an energy economical system which gives new opportunities to startups and opportunities to drive our energy transition and give us the opportunity to move faster forward to a renewable energy world.
Yeah, certainly. I couldn't agree more. I think that sort of legislative change would have a lasting impact. But I suppose maybe also to further quiz you on the ecosystem question, what about incubators and sort of accelerators and sort of energy tech clusters, let's say? I mean, are there any leading successful examples that you would highlight, perhaps where governments have got it really right and it's really fostered the community and brought up lots of successful applications and solutions in the energy tech space?
In Germany, there are several initiatives from the state. There's a current one going on to stick to the energy community. There's they have quarters where they put the whole ecosystem of different players, big players, small players, together in one quarter, and let them test how our energy system of the future in a very, very small place could look like. And I think that's quite good. These are quite good initiatives to push the real-time testing of new energy systems, of new approaches for energy systems, because that was something lacking in the last years. Nobody was driven enough to try out really new things, and that's something that changed now. And there are good examples where the legislator and our government started to push things.
Sure. And I suppose to quiz in that sense, I mean, there also must have been developments behind the scenes, let's say, or such as corporates, large oil and gas majors maybe looking to invest more money through their CVC arms, and the likes of Vito ONE putting more money into these ecosystems. I mean, what do you think is going to be the real critical mass to expedite everything in Germany? I mean, and is there? I know also there's a difference between sort of the south of Germany and the north of Germany in terms of the energy transition. I mean, can you discuss a little bit the different locations, maybe Munich versus Berlin, or even the west of Germany?
Yeah, first of all, the question that we can see that a lot of major oil giants, gas giants are moving to the new energy world. And they're pouring billions of dollars to the ecosystem by buying Sonnen, for example, here, not far away from Munich. And that's really a crucial and good thing happening, that the ecosystem is getting getting so much money, which they can use for new ideas, for new companies. I think that's really crucial. And funny fact is that these old giants are investing more money than the classical utilities we have in Germany, because probably they're more desperate, and they see also with the current crisis where the oil price went negative, that was the last wake-up call for them, that they need to do something, and that's why they're very trailblazing when it comes to investing into new monies, to new companies, and that's really that I think it's a good thing. It's a driver in the market. Yeah, I love to see that. I know that not everybody's happy with that, but I like it. And then the second part of the question, you need to help me.
Sorry, the second part of the question is perhaps, I mean, you've talked about these ecosystems that have been successful, where you have all the different stakeholders. I mean, what some governments perhaps would call the triple helix or even quadruple helix, where you have, you know, academia, you have the private sector, you have government sector, and maybe even citizens involved to develop these sort of technologies and move it forward in the energy transition. I was wondering whether you could speak about the differences in Germany, maybe perhaps in the north of Germany versus the south of Germany. I know there's different energy mixes in different parts of the country, or they're perhaps at different stages of the energy transition. I mean, what does that mean for startups in that sense? Are there more opportunities in other places? Are there less? I mean, what's the real meaning of that?
Yeah, first of all, of course, our energy landscape looks totally different in the north of Germany than in the south of Germany. But still, we have a nationwide pricing system and a nationwide price. So it doesn't matter from which point you attack the energy transition. You will have the same opportunities in every region in Germany, but which is different is, of course, that the ecosystem from universities, investors, research institutions, these of course are focused to several regions, and of course I would highlighting Munich here because Munich has a very, very good ecosystem in place for not only for energy technologies, but also for other technologies, emerging technologies in Germany. And you can tell by the big investments in the last weeks that there's something happening here. And I would definitely go to one of these hubs. It's in Germany to start a energy startup. Yeah,
Sure. So
probably not Berlin, but
yeah, for sure. I'm actually going to come to a audience question now, and this is, I suppose, I intersected with the question about the different ecosystems in Germany, but to bring back to the big corporates, the first question is: do you believe that big corporates are flexible enough to play in such a fast-moving space as venture capital? Quite a big question, and maybe a somewhat a contentious one, but what's your take on that, Mark?
They are, and they have to, because we see the innovation cycle is getting shorter and shorter, and you can see positive examples where the corporates started to use technologies of fast-moving startups to provide not probably new solutions, but to broaden up their solution they're providing. So it's happening. I'm sure that's a not an easy process, but it's happening, and the corporates are definitely able to do that, and lots of them, they are willing to do that. Yeah.
I'm sure, I mean, to reiterate your point, it's mutually beneficial from your point of view that they are piling this money in, and if they clearly are moving fast enough to stimulate these ecosystems. But again, this is to move on the conversation. I'll touch on actually the crash in oil prices, as you mentioned. I mean, the negative oil prices. This is a second audience question. Would you see the current crash in oil prices significantly impacting energy transition to a green and sustainable energy future, I suppose?
No, maybe in the short term, because there was this discussion as the price was going down. You can see some people trying to find exits of our European Green Deal. But I'm sure that's just like a small fire, and this won't really change our energy transition. And we don't have any time to let that happen, because we need to move fast there to stop the climate change. There are some attempts to use that to back off, but I just think that's a small fire, and it will go out very fast.
Of course, take the step back. I mean, the reason for the plummeting oil prices, of course, was as a result of COVID-19 and other factors. This question is I suppose a broad one, but please go into depth if you could. Is COVID-19 a positive or a negative for climate dialogue?
It's first glance, it looks like it's negative, because our media was covered by our climate change, not only problem but catastrophe before COVID-19. And now we are only reading about COVID-19. But what COVID-19 clearly showcased is that it is an international problem, and we all have to work together there to solve that problem. It's nothing you can solve yourself. And same is with the climate change. That's something that's an international problem, and we need to all to work together, stick together to solve this problem. And that's why I think it will be very positive for the let's say 1 or 2 years from now for the climate change dialogue.
Sure. And I suppose this is part of the same discussion, but then to bring it back specifically to energy tech startups, is COVID-19 positive or negative to energy tech startups?
Yes, I think so. It will be a catalyst. Like I said, it will be positive for the climate discussion. Will be COVID-19. So the climate discussion means a fast transition. A faster transition means more need for innovative startups, for innovation, and that's what's driving, or that's beneficial for the European startups, energy startups.
And this actually perfectly lead on to another audience question. And thank you very much, all those who have posed questions. Keep them coming if you have any that come to mind. But this question is about advice you would give. So what kind of advice do you have for people who are just starting in the energy industry, especially in the so-called disruptive startup market?
Advice, I have a big passion about it, because you will need it, because changes in the energy world will take time, and I'm now looking at that world for over 10 years, and the steps are marginal. So be very passionate, have a lot of passion and breath, to walk through the process of your to the process of your journey, or the journey in the energy world, as a founder or as a employee in an energy technology company. You will need a lot of breath for your journey.
Sure. So persistence pays for sure, and persistence and passion. That's how I'm going to paraphrase you. But
yeah, that's on point. Yes.
Yeah. No. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Mark. Here, this is going into the I suppose the geopolitical discussion of the battery markets, and we've touched a little bit on batteries, but of course, this is a key discussion to be had. Again, another audience question: does Europe and the US stand a chance in beating China in the battery market?
Not with the current battery technology setup. I said that there are alternatives, where other companies are looking at. If they turn out to be valid, and have a working business model behind them, then probably yes, but most likely no.
Okay, sure. Then I suppose then a follow-up question to that: what can be done to improve the chances of the Europe and the US in the, for use of better phrasing, the battery battle, let's say? What was? I think we may have lost Mark. Oh no, you're still with us, Mark.
No,
sorry,
I'm with you, but the connection was gone for
okay.
seconds.
Yeah, please. So yeah, what can we do to sort of improve the chances of the Europe and the US in the battery market battle?
Of course, everything starts with money for research and development. Then in the second phase, with dry powder for developing companies with that technology. So that would be something we would need if we want to be stand a chance there. But the question is why. So why shouldn't we focus on things where we can add more value than in the production of the battery cells themselves? So yeah, we're living in a world where everybody's doing what you can do best, or at the best prices. So I wouldn't be so curious about, or wouldn't be so excited about having all these battery factories in Germany.
Sure.
Or
yeah.
Europe or US, of course.
Yeah, and indeed there have been several large investments across Germany, and I think Germany has been the biggest benefactor or or recipients of foreign investment within the battery space, and
Yeah.
perhaps some of the European peers are flagging behind. And by definition, that makes sense given the historic automotive sector. But I suppose, I mean, do you think there's more room for collaboration across borders in let's make it more broad actually in across the energy tech space? Of course, there's European initiatives, but do you think there's more room for collaboration to really drive and expedite the energy transition?
Definitely there is. You can see that most of the European countries have their own energy agenda, and we have Germany going or leading the way for a few years now. But you can see that other countries are also coming and realize that was a quite good path, and as they realize that they need to change something, we should start to have an more broader European approach for that, and make inter-European connections possible.
Sure. Sorry, as my notifications just ping up on my screen, I was just adjusting there, but I couldn't agree more. I suppose we haven't also had the discussion between hydrogen versus batteries. Where do you stand on this debate? I mean, we've touched a little bit on hydrogen. I mean, what's your outlook and prognosis for the potential of hydrogen and what it can do in terms of the energy transition?
I have to admit, I'm a battery fan. This is because the efficiency of the hydrogen efficiency, or the hydrogen efficiency chain, is not as comparable. It's not comparable to the battery efficiency chain. So there will always be an advantage for the batteries. And I don't see that that advantage going away. That's just a physical law, what we can't change. The only drivers for hydrogen, in my opinion, are if batteries are not capable to provide enough energy, or the energy density for maybe trucks. I would say that would be an application which would be possible with where hydrogen could have his place. But for as a broad energy carrier, I don't see hydrogen anywhere competing to batteries.
So if I'm understanding correctly, perhaps then hydrogen has more potential in more industrial applications.
No, I wouldn't say industrial applications. In niche applications where you where you can't provide enough energy with batteries. That's okay. So not both, not so energy and power both can't provide. Yeah.
Sure. I'm interested actually, I suppose, if you're an advocate for batteries, of course, you've got to look further up the supply chain with the raw materials and the lithium cobalt that is needed to of course, produce batteries. I mean, can you look that far back in the supply chain as a seed investor, and do you?
Yes, we look to limitations, of course, and we think about, especially in this case, because it's all over the place, that where's the materials for these batteries coming from. Of course, we look at that definitely, but we don't see a shortage. So we don't see a shortage there in the next at least years. That will take some more time, and we also are. I am confident that we probably get other battery systems which are not containing so much critical materials. But that won't change my opinion about batteries. So you also need materials for fuel cells, not so much. That's true, yeah, but you also need them. And yeah, I was a researcher for fuel cells at the university, so I made up my mind. I discussed that topic with my colleagues and myself a lot, and that's why I'm still the opinion that it's okay for niche production. So trucks are not niche, but for solving specific problems, but not more.
I'd love to touch on the research. I suppose you said it's been about a decade that you've been in the energy tech space, whether it's in a research capacity or a VC capacity. I mean, taking that sort of broader perspective across the timeline of you being in the space. I mean, what have you seen as the major developments that really will define the future of the space? I mean, or what's your general perspective from the time you've spent within the energy tech space?
So my perspective, or my look into the future, is that we have a decentralized generation and consumption, which will, as I draw the picture of a building, and then we have a building, we have several buildings in the neighborhood, which are probably energy community, and then having communities next to each other, summing up to a whole energy system. So I'm thinking about energy cells, which we will have in future, and then drilling down to what this means for innovation in the energy tech sector means that we will connect everything in future. We not only connect, we will try to manage everything accordingly to balance generation and consumption. And there will be so many future business models, future technologies that I'm very curious about to see what is happening there. And from the perspective of the last 10 years, so 10 years ago, we had in Germany 18% of renewable energy, something like that. I'm not sure about the number. And this year, 10 years later, we have 50 something percentage of the electricity generated by renewable powers. So when you look at that, it's over 10 years, it is quite impressive how this change passed by. But of course, when you're now in the situation, you think everything is moving slow, but the big wave is hitting us. It's just 10 more years, we'll have 70-80% of renewable energies, and even though you think it's not happening so much in the current situation, when you step back and have a look on it, it's really happening a lot.
So an overall positive outlook there from Mark, and I love
yeah, definitely. We will. We are on the right path, probably not fast enough, because we have to rethink that we only now are generating our electricity or electricity consumption by renewable energies, but heating will come to that, and mobility will come. So we need even more renewable sources, and not sources, renewable generation sources. We have enough, but we need generation, and that will be the major challenge of the next years to install enough generation power, PV, wind, that because it's possible, but we need to hurry up.
So an overall positive outlook, I'd say, as a summary. But we need to speed up the generation. There are some things policymakers can do, as you mentioned, with the tax system. As a closer, I want to make sure that anyone tuning in, especially entrepreneurs, know how to reach you, Mark. So what is the best timing to reach you? I mean, during the day, what are the best platforms to reach you? I'd love to just hear your contact details for anyone who'd like to network with you.
Yeah, first of all, my contact is Mark with K at Vito.vc. Send me a deck. I will look in every deck. When is the best timing? The best timing is, there's no bad timing. I love to see early ideas. I love to see later stage ideas or later stage companies. I'm just curious about it. But if you want seeking an investment, then you should really start even with the first presentation, send it please to me, and I will have a look, and probably we won't invest, but maybe a year later or 2 years later we will invest, and we love to see that development, and also discuss your ideas. So it is never early enough to approach me.
Sure. And I suppose you have a generally a German focus as well as pan-European. But what about entrepreneurs from other parts of the world? I presume you're still open to hear their ideas and receive their decks.
Definitely, but we won't invest. So
okay. Yeah, sure. Suppose then I want to finish on, and we've touched a lot on it in our discussion already, but what you really hope for the future. You've discussed what needs to happen, but I mean, what do you think you would really like to happen in the European energy ecosystem that is currently not there?
The energy ecosystem, from the perspective of climate change, I would love to have not only the carbon credit system we have now in the European Union, I would like to have a carbon tax, because that will enable new business models, enable technologies which are already there to filter carbon dioxide out of our atmosphere. Will give them the opportunity to have the sufficient business case and help us to drive or to stop climate change. So introduce a carbon tax, and give their founders new opportunities to drive our fight against climate change.
Sure. That seems like a perfect place to finish. I mean, just as a brief summary, we've covered a lot. And of course, I think probably key takeaways from this would be that there needs to be ramped up generation, but you have a generally positive outlook on that. Implementation of a carbon tax would be key and will provide a lot more opportunities. But I think a key takeaway, of course, is that you are probably pretty optimistic about the outlook, and COVID-19 is probably a positive development for the overall ecosystem. I hope I've not misrepresented it, Mark, but that seems a point.
That's covered quite good.
Yeah, so please feel free to reach out to Mark, and same applies with me. I'm alex.owenhunt@ft.com, and would love to hear any interesting stories in that tech ecosystem, energy tech ecosystem. So thank you for listening, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.